I almost quit Muay Thai because for a year straight, I couldn't get my kicks above hip height. Now, when I told my coaches and my peers that, what they told me is, bro, just start kicking more. Just keep kicking, keep trying to kick higher and higher, and you'll eventually get there. And so I did. I went to class, I tried kicking over and over again. I stayed after class, hitting the bag, trying to get higher and higher. And eventually, that just made me get more pain, more pinching, and more tightness. So that's when I realized that advice is bullshit. What I learned at that point is exactly what I'm gonna teach you in this video. I used my physiotherapy master's knowledge as well as going through countless mobility programs on my own to show you exactly how I went from hip high to head high kicks in 3 months. So if you're ready, let's get straight into it. So to actually unlock head kicks, there's only 3 things you need. 1 is unlocking your joint rotation. 2 is strengthening specific muscles while they're lengthening. And 3 is strengthening specific muscles while they're shortening. And if you're able to get those 3 things sorted, you'll be able to kick to the head. So there's 2 types of hip joint rotation that we need for kicking. The first one that we're gonna talk about is hip internal rotation. So the way that you're gonna test that is going to be bringing your legs in like this at a 90-degree angle. Without lifting your butt off the floor, you're gonna go in as much as you can, like this. Now, this movement is really key for when you're trying to throw a kick and you're turning and pivoting over. If you're unable to have good hip internal rotation, what you're going to experience is you're going to have difficulty or even pain and pinching when trying to turn that leg over, which is going to be a limiting factor for your kick. Now, number 2 is going to be hip external rotation. So one way you can check that is going to be bring one leg straight, one leg down without lifting your butt off the floor. And this is going to be important for the pivoting leg that you're standing on. If you're unable to externally rotate well, you're going to have a hard time pivoting. And obviously pivoting is very important for trying to get that high kick. So if you're trying to improve that hip internal rotation because you found it limited in the last test, this is one of my favorite ways to do it. So what you're going to do, you're going to sit in this sort of 90-90 position. You're going to turn towards the back leg. If that's too painful or pinchy here, you can back off or turn towards the front leg. And literally all you're going to do is just get used to this stretch here, feel a bit of a stretch in the hip joint. And then you're going to take your foot, you're going to press your foot in the ground just to start activating the joint around that range. Because if you just stretch, you're not going to develop the control needed for the high kick. So from here, you're going to press that foot into the ground, feel it kind of in that glute up the back leg, hold for about 10 seconds. And then after that, you're going to press the knee in the ground. This one you should feel more deep in the joint and maybe in the side of the hip slightly. And then you're going to hold that for 10 seconds. You're going to repeat that at least 2 times while turning deeper into the stretch between legs. This is one of my favorites for improving that hip internal rotation, as well as getting rid of that pain and pinchiness and stickiness inside your hips. So for a hip external rotation, there's many different variations, just like internal rotation, but this is one of my favorites. So what we're doing is we're locking out the leg just like this, holding a weight in between the legs, and you're just going to shift to the side while keeping this leg turned. This is also going to give you a nice groin stretch too, which we'll be talking about later. And then from there, you're going to activate and come out of it after holding at the end for a little bit. This is going to help you with that pivot, like turning that leg out when you're going for the kick. It's a really nice drill. And then when you add load to it, it helps you maintain that over time. That's the same reason why we did the contract relax technique for the internal rotation. We want to have some type of load, whether internally created or externally created, to help us lock in the adaptations that we're creating. So number 2, when you're kicking, there's 2 muscle groups that need to be able to stretch and be strong while they're lengthening. Those muscles are the hamstrings as well as the adductors, which is why we usually work our splits when we're trying to train for high kicks. So the way that we're going to work on these is also ideally by using some type of external load. We're going to start with the hamstrings. So when we're opening up our hamstrings for high kicks, especially when using a weight, this is one of my favorites. It's called the loaded hamstring stretch. So holding a weight that you can tolerate, you're going to keep it under your legs like this. And then what you're going to go for is you're going to start just by leaning forward, feeling a nice stretch, making sure you're not overly rounding your low back. And then from here, we're going to start to, just like we did with the internal rotation, use the contract relax technique. So from here, we're going to take that heel, we're going to push it into the surface that we're stretching with for about 5 seconds. And then we're going to lean forward relaxing that contraction and getting deeper for 10 seconds. Then in the new range of motion, you're gonna take that heel, you're gonna press it again into the bench. So you're gonna repeat that cycle at least 2 times. And from there, you're not just stretching, but you're using both internal and external stimuluses to get more out of the stretch. So number 2 is my favorite for strengthening the adductors while they're lengthening. It's called middle split push-up. So what you're gonna do, get into this middle split position as shown with a support, and then you're going to push from the object, pushing your hips back, holding, and coming back up. So what we're doing is we're stretching, but we're also practicing putting some of that load onto the adductors when we push our hips back. So this is a really good one to start getting that splits training in. And that's gonna help you get your kicks up higher in the most efficient way. So once that starts getting easier, you can start to add in isometric holds. So from here, using a support as you need, you're gonna let go, hold for about 5 seconds. So you feel that adductor group getting stronger, and then reach out. Ideally, you're gonna go a little bit further because you want it to be pretty difficult. But from here, you're gonna start to build the strength needed to throw a head kick. Number 3 is going to be strengthening the muscle groups responsible for shortening while kicking, specifically the hip flexors and the hip abductors. So what you're gonna do, this is one of my favorites, is loaded hip flexor lifts. What you're gonna do in this exercise is you're pretty much holding on to a support on an elevated surface. You're gonna lift that leg, hold slightly, and then bring it all the way down. So if using a weight is difficult at the start, you can start weight free, but then over time, you're gonna progress to a weight that feels challenging. Try to hold at the top for a second or 2. And then from there, we're gonna slowly progress by adding more and more weight. The second muscle group that's really important in this category, especially for roundhouse kicks, is the hip abductor. So we need that for us to be able to get that leg high and to have that control over the head kicks, right? So one of the best exercises for this one that I've found with a lot of my clients is a hip abductor raises. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna get yourself supported on a surface like this, get your leg up in a way where pretty much like 90 degrees, like here, and try not to be crunched over. Try to be nice and tall. A little bit of lean is okay, but not too much. And from here, you're just gonna pulse up and down. Should feel a lot of it in here. If you feel a lot in your low back, start lower. This is the regression, right? So you're gonna start with this first. Try to go for the allotted amount of reps and make sure you're feeling it in the right areas. And over time, you're gonna progress by adding more and more reps over time. Now, if you're serious about actually unlocking these head kicks and improving your mobility in a way that's the most effective, I'm a physiotherapist that's been working predominantly with fighters for years now. I've helped hundreds of fighters just like you unlock the kicks, kick the way they want, and train the way they want without pain, pinching, tightness, in a way where they don't have to worry about hip mobility ever again. So if you want to learn more about my one-to-one mobility coaching, where I get you on a specific personalized mobility plan for you, and keep you accountable to a 3-month process where I get you from hip high to head high kicks, comment fighter below, and I will reach out to you with more information. In the meantime, I hope this brought you some value. Keep an eye out for more content coming soon.